The billionaire mother stopped breathing when she saw her disabled daughter standing in the middle of the garden without her wheelchair, trembling on unsteady legs while a stranger held out both hands. For 4 years, 12-year-old Penelope Hart had been unable to walk without assistance after a devastating accident had damaged her spine. Doctors had told her family that recovery would be difficult and uncertain. Yet that afternoon, the girl who had stopped believing in her own body was taking one tiny step after another toward a quiet single father everyone in the mansion assumed was merely a groundskeeper. Her mother watched from behind a glass door, tears filling her eyes, completely unaware that the man encouraging her daughter was hiding a past as a Navy SEAL. If you believe kindness, forgiveness, hope, and second chances can change a life, please like this video, share it with someone who needs hope today, leave a meaningful comment, and subscribe to our channel so you can become part of our family and our community. Marianne Beaumont had spent most of her adult life learning how to win. At 41, she was the founder and CEO of a global medical technology company worth billions. She had negotiated with powerful investors, rescued failing businesses, and built an empire from an idea that began in a tiny rented office. People admired her determination, but very few knew how much of her strength had been created by pain. Marianne's daughter, Penelope, was the center of her entire world. 4 years earlier, Penelope had been an energetic 8-year-old who loved horses, drawing, and running through the family's enormous garden. Then a serious accident changed everything. Her spinal cord was damaged, and despite months of rehabilitation, she remained unable to walk independently. The transformation was devastating. Penelope went from racing across the lawn to depending on others for nearly every movement. She hated being watched. She hated being helped when she had not asked. Most of all, she hated the pity in people's eyes. Marianne responded by becoming fiercely protective. She built a private rehabilitation room inside the mansion, hired the best specialists, and arranged an army of caregivers. She spent millions searching for new treatments. But her obsession with finding a physical cure gradually overshadowed what Penelope needed emotionally. Her daughter did not want to be treated as a problem waiting to be solved. She wanted to be treated as a person who still had dreams. That was when Caleb Mercer entered their lives. Caleb was 39, a single father, and worked as a groundskeeper at the Beaumont estate. He arrived every morning in an old pickup truck, wearing practical work clothes and carrying gardening tools. He maintained the flower beds, repaired fences, trimmed trees, and kept the enormous property beautiful. Most members of Marianne's staff barely noticed him. But Caleb had lived a life far more extraordinary than anyone imagined. Before becoming a groundskeeper, he had served as a Navy SEAL. His military career had taken him through dangerous missions where discipline and calmness were matters of survival. He had witnessed friends injured and lost people he could never forget. When his service ended, he returned home carrying emotional scars he rarely discussed. His marriage eventually collapsed, and he became the single father of his 8-year-old son, Rowan. Caleb never told anyone at the Beaumont estate about his military history. He did not want admiration. He did not want people treating him like a hero. He wanted a simple life where his greatest responsibility was helping Rowan with homework, preparing breakfast, and making sure his son knew that he was loved. Penelope first noticed him on a bright summer afternoon. She had been sitting beneath a tree in the garden, staring angrily at her wheelchair. A physical therapist had just left after another frustrating session. Penelope had tried to stand but collapsed almost immediately, and the disappointment had left her close to tears. Caleb was repairing a wooden fence several yards away. He noticed her frustration but did not approach. Instead, he quietly continued working. Penelope watched him. After several minutes, Caleb placed his tools down and began repairing a small birdhouse that had fallen from a tree. He worked slowly, patiently, and without showing any frustration when the first attempt failed. Penelope eventually rolled her wheelchair closer. Caleb showed her the damaged birdhouse and allowed her to hold one of the small wooden pieces. He did not tell her she would walk again. He did not make promises. He simply treated her as someone capable of helping. Something changed inside Penelope. Over the next few weeks, she began visiting the garden whenever Caleb was working. Rowan often accompanied him, and the children quickly became friends. Rowan never treated Penelope like someone fragile. He challenged her to design birdhouses, identify flowers, and invent stories about the animals living in the garden. Caleb quietly encouraged her independence. He taught her how to position her wheelchair near uneven ground, how to strengthen her balance using safe exercises, and how to stop measuring success by what her legs could not do. Marianne watched everything from a distance. At first, she was grateful. Then she became suspicious. She worried Caleb was becoming too important to Penelope. Her daughter had begun refusing certain therapy sessions, claiming she wanted to practice the exercises Caleb had taught her. Marianne feared that an unqualified groundskeeper was interfering with professional treatment. One afternoon, she confronted Caleb. He did not argue. He explained that he had never intended to replace Penelope's therapists. He simply wanted to help her believe that her life could still be meaningful even if recovery took years. Marianne dismissed him. She ordered the security team to keep Caleb away from Penelope. The result was immediate. Penelope stopped smiling. She refused to visit the garden. She became withdrawn during therapy and began spending hours staring out the window. Marianne tried to convince herself that she had made the responsible decision, but every day her daughter became more discouraged. Then an unexpected discovery changed everything. Marianne's head of security uncovered Caleb's military record. He was not merely a former Navy SEAL. He had received commendations for rescue operations and had been involved in missions where his calm decision-making had saved lives. Marianne was stunned. She had judged him by his job. She had never bothered to ask who he was. But before she could decide what to do with the information, a dangerous accident occurred. One bright afternoon, Marianne hosted a charity event on the estate grounds. Guests filled the garden while children played nearby. Penelope had been brought outside in her wheelchair, and Rowan was helping her participate in a simple gardening activity. Suddenly, a large decorative arch became unstable. A support cable snapped. The structure began falling toward the children. Panic spread instantly. Caleb reacted before anyone else. His Navy SEAL training returned with astonishing precision. He moved through the crowd, directed adults away from the collapsing structure, and reached Penelope and Rowan. Instead of pulling Penelope violently from her chair, he secured the wheelchair and guided both children toward a protected stone wall. The structure crashed moments later. Nobody was seriously injured. Marianne stood frozen. She had spent months believing Caleb was a threat. He had just risked everything to protect her daughter. But the most emotional moment came afterward. Penelope was shaken but safe. Caleb knelt beside her, waiting until she was calm. Then Penelope looked toward him and reached for his hand. Marianne saw something she had missed for years. Penelope did not need someone to promise that she would walk. She needed someone to remind her that she was still capable of moving forward. Marianne finally understood. That afternoon, she apologized to Caleb. She admitted that fear had turned her into a mother who tried to control every part of her daughter's life. She had been so focused on preventing another tragedy that she had forgotten to let Penelope live. Caleb accepted the apology. He also told Marianne, through his actions, that he understood her fear. He had spent years living with fear himself. The difference was that he had learned fear could be acknowledged without being allowed to control every decision. From that point forward, everything changed. Marianne stopped treating Penelope like a patient who needed constant supervision. She began asking what her daughter wanted instead of deciding for her. Penelope chose new hobbies, joined an adaptive sports program, and began spending more time outdoors. Caleb remained part of their lives, but he never claimed credit for Penelope's progress. He simply kept showing up. Months later, Penelope participated in an adaptive horseback riding program. She could not ride independently, but she was able to sit upright on the specially trained horse with assistance. Marianne watched from the side, tears filling her eyes as her daughter laughed. Penelope was not cured. She did not suddenly stand and walk perfectly. But she was happy. And that mattered. Rowan became one of her closest friends, while Caleb became someone Marianne trusted deeply. Their relationship developed slowly, built not on wealth or attraction but on mutual respect and the understanding that both had survived difficult chapters. Marianne eventually transformed part of her company into a foundation supporting children with spinal injuries and physical disabilities. She funded rehabilitation centers, adaptive sports programs, and equipment for families who could not afford it. Caleb volunteered as a mentor. He spoke to parents about resilience, not because he had all the answers, but because he knew what it meant to keep moving forward after life changed unexpectedly. One afternoon, nearly a year after Caleb first met Penelope, Marianne stood at the glass doors overlooking the garden. She saw her daughter sitting in the grass beside Rowan, while Caleb repaired the same wooden birdhouse where their friendship had begun. Penelope had placed a small sign beside it. It read, "Still growing." Marianne smiled through tears. She finally understood the message. Healing did not always mean returning to the person you were before the injury. Sometimes healing meant discovering a new version of yourself. Before we reach the end, we want to hear from you. Please leave a meaningful comment telling us what Penelope's journey taught you. Do you believe hope means waiting for life to return to normal, or finding happiness and purpose even when life becomes something completely different? Your words may encourage someone in our community who is facing a struggle that others cannot see. As the afternoon sun warmed the garden, Penelope rolled her wheelchair toward the birdhouse and carefully placed a new flower beside it. Caleb watched proudly while Marianne stood nearby. The billionaire CEO who had once believed money could solve every problem finally understood that the greatest gifts in life could not be purchased. Courage could not be bought. Trust could not be bought. Hope could not be bought. And love certainly could not be forced. Caleb had once served as a Navy SEAL, entering dangerous places where fear could mean losing everything. But his greatest mission was not the one recorded in his military history. It was helping a little girl believe that her disability did not define her future. Penelope had not needed someone to rescue her. She needed someone to believe in her when she stopped believing in herself. And Marianne had not needed another miracle. She needed to learn that sometimes a mother's greatest act of love is not holding her child tighter, but finally giving her enough freedom to reach for the world. The garden remained bright beneath the afternoon sky. Penelope smiled. Caleb kept working. Rowan laughed. And Marianne finally stopped watching her daughter's life through a window. She walked outside and joined them. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, leave a meaningful comment, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to our channel so you never miss another emotional journey.